So I've been at WPI for 3 years. We do training and we do some contract work, but particularly training. We focus on a lot of corporate training and open enrollment, so people looking to get into the industry, also for people who are in the industry and trying to expand their skill sets. I'm the guy who works in the lab, so I don't have a lot of influence with that on the business side. So basically, I'm the person that they say, hey, this is the program we want to do. How do we do this? So I set up the labs, I set up the tools and things that we want to use within the training programs. Before coming here, I was in the industry for almost 20 years. Started off in the early 90s, back in at Alpha Beta days, where we were working on some beta glucan. Spent about 4 or 5 years there, and then kind of trickled my way up here to Massachusetts, where I started at Abbott, which is now AbbVie. Did almost 10 years at Abbott, where we did the launch for Humira for rheumatoid arthritis. Then I moved I went back to Rhode Island again and worked for Alexion for about 5 or 6 years, where we did the launch for Solaris for PNH and rare blood disorders. I spent most of the time I was at an organization for at least 4 to 5 years plus. I've worked on multiple projects. Once you've done one for so long, to expand your skill sets and see more and learn and work on different products, you kind of have to go to different organizations, because a lot of different groups and functions that focus on one applications. So it was nice to kind of go and see different things and who's working on what products. Before I got into this, I actually went to school to be a plumber. I was a plumber by trade. But in the early 90s, the economy forced me to make a change. And that's where I learned about the Biotech. I took the certificate program, 1-year class, 3 nights a week, 5 hours a night, crammed it all in 1 year. And after that, here I am 20 years later, worked my way up from an entry-level technician to senior management to here now at WPI, teaching what I've learned over those 20 years through success and both failure. Failures, it's not fun, but it's a great learning tool. Education to industry, the only big difference is compensation, but it's the quality of life that I've gained here, and I get to do the things that I truly enjoyed most from industry, which was mentoring and developing staff to be very successful. I mean, we're dealing with millions and millions of dollars of product. So the best thing that we can do is make sure that we have a very successful team in place. So I get to do that here and provide these people that knowledge I've gained, and then send them out to the industry so that they get that step ahead before they even start touching anything. 15 years out of the 20, I was in management. So again, when you're dealing with different personalities, different types of people, a lot of different training you have to go through to make sure that the people are qualified. So again, we went through a lot of training to make sure that we learned how these people need to learn, what kind of tools do we provide. Because again, when you're dealing with the money that we are, you have to make sure these people are prepared to go in and start turning valves and making good decision making on the floor. Yes, you're going to go through, even after you go through your training externally, you get into an organization, you're looking at 6 months to a couple of years worth of training just to learn and to be able to do all facets of that job. We use math in every facet of the job. I mean, because again, we're doing weights, measures, calculations, a lot of algebra. So like when you're doing seed concentrations, you need to be able to determine, transfer factors. So if I have a concentration of 6 million cells per mil and I have 300 mils of this culture, and I want to expand it up to 2 liters, but I need it to start at 300,000 cells per mil, you're putting together a lot of algebraic equations to determine transfer values. So we use this in our industry every day. And I think the thing that I gain from it is coming from the construction side, plumbing, and carpentry side. Basically everything we do there is math. Pipe pitches, slopes, calculations, doing roof pitches, angles. You see that it's a transition to whatever we do. There's a lot of math involved in all these decisions. Solving problems, but again, when you're on the floor operating, the calculations are there for you to perform. So it's not like you have to know them all. You need to know how to perform these calculations and understand, the values that you're obtaining. So you don't have to be a math major, but you do need to have that basic functions, I would say up through the algebraic. When I first got into the industry, coming from the trades, the industry had really crashed in the early 90s and needed to make a change. So when I got into biotech, the first thing I looked at was great paying, good paying jobs, stability, the economy's bad, they're still hiring. So I got into it, I started working hard, working my way up, and it wasn't really until I got into my third organization. I was in a management role. We were working on a product that was going to be launched for the public use, and we were doing our clinical phase 3 studies. And so again, what was the real eye opener is during this study we were working on rheumatoid arthritis, a product for that. We actually had the people who were on our study, in our phase 3 clinical study, come in, and they actually met with all of us. And it kind of gave you an eye opener of what we're really doing. We're manufacturing a product, but you're actually manufacturing quality of life. These people, were very, heavy arthritis, couldn't do the basic functions that we enjoy doing, tying our shoes, holding a fork, feeding yourself. So what happened is they came in, all of us who were working on this product, they set up these videos, they showed us these people, struggling with common things that we take for granted every day. And all of a sudden, after this video got done, I'd say 50% of these people that we just watched struggle came in doing all these different things, tying shoes, juggling, and it just, at that point, it really opened your eyes, what are we doing? The little things we take for granted, how we can improve the quality of life by the products that we make. So that was, I think, the biggest eye-opener for me is really, wow, look what we're doing, how we've improved quality of life for somebody. And it really makes you understand that it's not just a product, that you're affecting life, somebody's life, and how can I improve that quality? Work hard. I mean, like I said, I came from construction, so I was always heavy into math and science, loved it. Growing up, that was my major. Couldn't do English for nothing, but math and science, whiz. And like I said, I stumbled upon this industry because it was kind of new back then. It wasn't really, in the early 90s, it was just starting to blossom. And because of the economy crashing and my education, I had gone to school to be a plumber, I had to figure out something to do. And so again, when I looked at the transition into the pharmaceutical, a friend introduced me to it. And it was like, okay, we're running large machines, very mechanical, and it kind of intrigued me. And it's like, I can do this. So when I first got in, everybody's like, hey, how do you know all this science? I don't know this science. Somebody who's gone to school, got their PhD, has struggled, to develop this new cure for us. They need somebody now to make it. And they need somebody who's very mechanical, can run these machines, understand how they perform, and interpret the data to make sure that it's doing as expected. So that's really, it was an easy transition for me because of the fact that it's very mechanical. And then being able to interpret data and understand utilizing my math background made it very easy for me. Basically, to get into the industry, all I had was my certificate. So no, I don't have an associate's, I don't have a bachelor's. As I said, I went to the trade school. I wanted to be a plumber. But the economy forced me to make a change. So again, getting into the biotech back in the early 90s, worked my butt off. I started just like everybody even today. Again, hired as a temp, proved myself, within a month's time, got hired on full time. Worked my way up, through different, levels, different challenges, learning everything I could to upper management. So here I am 12 years into my career, and the industry kind of changed. When we first started, we were looking for these mechanical people to come in and run machines. But as the industry changed and evolved, it got to a point in my career where here I was managing multiple people under me. I have no bachelor's, no degree, a certificate with 15 years experience, and I couldn't hire a technician one, which is an entry-level tech, without that 4-year degree. So it was kind of like, it kind of hindered who I could hire, the population that I needed. And I think quickly they realized that they have to have a subset of, both. You need that strong mechanical aptitude. We need that college base. It's a balance of both. You want to be able to have a strong population to fill this need, this demand. Biotech is growing, and right now they're looking at, there's more products out there than we have people to make it. So we need to have those qualified people, and we can't limit the population that we choose from. And having that strong mechanical background is a true asset, along with a strong attention to detail to create these high-tech operators to handle millions of dollars every day of their week. Like I said, it all depends. I've had a lot of people, veterans that I've worked with. I've had a lot that come straight out of college. I think it's a mixed group that we see. There's a lot of different assets out there that we can combine to make a very successful person. So yeah, we do see a lot of vets again, but I've seen a diverse population of people with different backgrounds. I think it would be a good extension for the vets, and it's something that we've actually talked about here is, can we do a program designed for the vets to kind of help them get back into the workplace. Because that is one of the things we do. We work with different organizations that maybe close their door, manufacturing facilities that close their door, but their employees have similar, traits that we can transfer into this industry. And we do programs that actually help them transfer from one area into the biotech, giving them the tools that they need to kind of get their foot in the door. Like every other business in the world, you got some that do, you got some that don't. But again, when you've got a product out there and you get patients relying on that product from you for the quality of their life, you need to be able to reproduce it time and time again. So those are the industries that take good care of their people because their people are taking good care of them. You need a very close knit. You got to be very successful. To do one batch that produces this product that's going to help them takes us good 3 to 4 months from the time we start making it to the time we purify that final product. You lose one batch, that's a lot of time lost. You don't get it, you don't get it back. So we need that strong attention to detail. We need high success levels. So again, it's all about having a good rounded, staff, organization, being very supportive, giving the tools and stuff that you need to be successful. Future of biotech manufacturing is kind of changing, okay, because of the fact that they've realized now over the past 25 years or so since we've been kind of growing, is that people are the weakest link in the systems. And like I was saying earlier, if you think about, you can have a scheduled routine. You can go to bed every night, 11 o'clock. Some days you wake up, you're ready to rock and roll, let's go. Other days you just ain't with it. Well, these are the people making critical decisions on the floors. So the industry is realizing that, yeah, we are human. We are going to make mistakes. How do we minimize that? So today's operators have kind of evolved a little differently than when I first started. When I first started, there wasn't really a lot of automation. When we did our things, it was us running around, turning valves, doing things at right times. Now because of the fact that we are the weakest link in the systems, they're trying to develop these processes to remove us from the process a little more, a little less hands-on. But what that requires now is a different type of operator. That operator really needs to understand what's going on, what should be happening, and interpreting that data that they're seeing day to day. Because again, we don't want people that are looking at millions of dollars running and going, hey, we got an alarm go off, let's go call somebody. No, we want somebody saying, this doesn't look right before we get out of control or into a situation that we lose this batch. We need to start intervening sooner, interpreting data, understanding what the cultures are doing, and bringing in our support groups, our quality groups, our management, and making sure that we're making decisions as teams. Because again, there's millions and millions of dollars of materials and products, and again, lose that batch, that's 4 months. What's going to happen to the patient? The patient needs this product as well. You absolutely have to have a high level of communication because again, you're running biologics, not like we punch a time clock and okay, we're done. Organisms that we grow, cells, they tell us when we need to be here. So a lot of times, these facilities have to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week coverage. So again, when we're passing off the baton, we want to make sure that the people coming in are set to go, that we prep them, just vice versa. When we come in the following morning, we want to be up to date, where we're at, what's going on, any situations that arise, anything that, outside the norm that doesn't look right that should be focused on. But if you don't get that level of communication, you come in and you're going to find out the hard way that something's not right again. And that's just, again, we need to be proactive, not reactive to problems. We have to be able to kind of interpret the machine's doing what it should, the cells are doing what it should, or it's not, and getting ourselves involved much sooner. So again, that's the new kind of training that really needs to be out there, is that if we're pulling our operators away from being more hands-on, then they really need to understand the culture, what it's supposed to be doing, and interpreting that data. When you get into the organization, there's so many different skill sets. You'll have these programmable computer programmers that we work with to actually develop the process. They'll also be working with mechanical engineers because there's certain specifications we have to hit. So you'll have manufacturing input needs being communicated, engineering, how does this need to be designed, feeding into these programmers saying, now let's put this into an automated package that we can actually run reproducibly time and time again. With the same, if I had two candidates with the same education and I had to make a choice between the two, I think I would have to go down the ladder to a little more of what is the mechanical aptitude, how does this individual fit? Because again, if you have the dysfunctional family, you have issues on the floor, that creates distraction from what we should be doing. So you're always making sure that you've got the good fit, you get the background, the education, strong mechanical aptitude, and I look for a very high attention to level of detail. Because again, what we have to be doing is, before you turn any valve, stop, think, make sure it's the right thing we're doing. Open up one valve, expose our culture to the product, to the environment, and you just lost $1 million batch. Very difficult. I've had to go to school for lots of training to try to, when you interview people, there's certain things you can't ask. So it really does limit, but we've went through training to kind of, how can we get the answers we need? And then we actually use tools, because you see so many people. We use kind of point scales, grading, to kind of see where we stand. Because again, you have a half hour to make a decision on a person that you're going to put in charge of, millions of dollars of product. So we actually went through a lot of training to make sure that we were trying to make the best decisions on our hires going forward. Yeah, we actually went through psychological trainings, type of people you work with, directors, thinkers, socializers. Are they audio, learners, visual learners? So you can understand, not just, you got to make that good decision, but how do I teach this person? How do they learn? Those are the things that we have to figure out as well, to make sure that we're providing that right education and training, because not everybody's the same. Organism that's alive, if you think about us, biologics, we're a carbon-based life form, right? So again, what do you need to live? You need air, you need food, right? What we're growing in biologics, same thing. It's an organism, a live organism. They need things to grow, food, water, air. So what we do is, when we're growing biologics, basically we're creating an environment conducive to, like, the human body. We're providing the essentials that it needs to grow and produce this product that we have. Making sure the industry not bottlenecking itself to, saying we need, bachelor's degrees coming in. Those are great. You don't want to limit your resources. In this industry, growing so much, we have to make sure that we have the population. So we have to make sure we're looking at the right appropriate candidates. And if you look at around here, what is this? Machines, right? They're running with high-pressure vats, high-pressure steams, hydraulics, pitches and slopes, valves, instrumentation. So you need that mechanical aptitude coupled with that science, because you need to understand the organism, how they grow, and what they should be doing, and you also need to understand how the machine's supposed to work. If you've got those two put together, you've got a great operator, because that person can, handle both sides of the process, and it makes them good decision makers. And again, that last thing is strong attention to detail. People coming in, you got to challenge them to, that detail. Like when we come in, you'll look at my plant, I have things labeled up, hang your coat on this one. I'll actually hit my students on that and say, it says large coats only, how come you put your small there? Because we need you to have habits and routines when you get into the floor, because the way I look at it is, you ever get in the car and you're going down the highway and all of a sudden you're at your exit? Well, you can't have that complacency when we get into the floor. We have to have that repetitiveness, routine. That's not always good everywhere, and what we do, it is. Habits and routines, so that you minimize those impacts of being human, the failures. Most companies, once you go in there and you're hired full-time, a lot of times now they do through temp agencies, because as we know, you get a half hour, 30 minutes to make a decision on an employee. Maybe good, maybe bad. So a lot of these organizations now go through the temp agencies. You work your way. If you're proven hard worker, got the skill sets that we need, we hire you full-time. Once you're hired full-time, that organization doesn't want to lose you, because it's a challenge out there. Everybody wants good talent. So if you've been hired full-time, that organization said, you're a keeper. Everybody else wants you. So you want to develop that staff, because to be successful, you can't have voids. So basically, yeah, I was the chief, but I always made sure I had somebody else that could do my job. So if I had to leave, there was no vacuum. Same thing, we want our people to develop. We want them to learn different things. So once you master something, we don't want you becoming complacent. We're going to keep teaching you. The more you know, the more value you are to that organization. And that's another thing that we've seen. When I first got into the organization, you had specific unit operations. You had one person that just did cell culture. You had one person that did core support, or glassware, buffer preparation, media preparation, and a purification group. It's not utilizing your assets. You get these good people. What we're doing now is bioprocessing orgs, where we're teaching people how to go from throwing that one little vial, 1 ml vial, to actually bottling that final product. You know that. You've got an army of people that can do anything, and it minimizes your failures. So if, John or Jane is sick, you always got somebody else to fill that vacuum that can do it and to be just as qualified. But you've got to have those business models. If you don't, I've had individuals in my career where, great people, mechanical, attention to detail, but glory people. I know it. I'm keeping this data, this knowledge to myself because it makes me look better. Not in this industry. We want to share that knowledge. We want everybody to be expanding, growing in their career so that you never have that void. Because again, there's such a competition in our industry. Attrition is about, most people 3 to 4 years and they're gone. So you've got to keep building these ladders. You've got to keep bringing in these new techs. You've got to make sure you got your captains, your swabbies, but developing these people. Never have a ship full of captains. All right? You got to have them all so that we're filling in. The captains are teaching, we're developing, we're building, we're retaining these people, and we're giving them challenges that makes them want to stay. Great industry. I mean, we can't keep up. And I says, one thing I like here is that being in Massachusetts, it's a biotech central. And then the growth that we're providing, resource to the industry that I may not be in it anymore, but I'm helping out the industry still by, providing them with qualified people to go in and be successful and make sure the patients are getting their products.